Hello, my name is Rabbi Moshe Rudner, and I have a religious document that I would like to read into the record. This document was written by my Rebbe, Ben Hecht, about the co-creation, his part in the co-creation of the Fortean Society, named after Charles Fort. We live in very interesting times. We live in a time when half the country is entirely unashamed to state in public that they believe in ghosts. Literally, half the country, intelligent people, are willing to admit that they believe all kinds of oddities, all kinds of irrational oddities that any intelligent person would have been ashamed to admit that they believed in Britain 100 years ago or in Spain 1,000 years ago. The other half of the country has a solution, and that is to chisel dogmatic scientism directly into the morality, the law, and the faith of the land. May this article by my Rabbi Ben Hecht annoy them both. He wrote this article in presumably must have been the late 30s. Must have been the late 30s, approximately. This month, our master, Charles Fort, sits up in his grave, sticks his head through a geranium pot, and favors his disciples with a large wink. The occasion will be the appearance of his complete writings, all in one fat blue volume labeled The Books of Charles Fort. Our master will most certainly throw a basket of frogs in the air and hurl his tombstone over the fence. But I do wish he would come out altogether. He is desperately needed. When he was on Earth not so long ago, he went to a lot of work, establishing the three great Fortean laws. These are that man is a fool, that his soul is a swamp in a derby hat, and that his intellect is a fetus in a frock coat. In promulgating these three great basic laws, our master had to do a lot of groin kicking. Ask any astronomer who Charles Fort was and see for yourself. If you can't find an astronomer, try a physicist or geologist, or a philosopher with initials after his name. They will all pretend to laugh, and they will all give the same answer. They will tell you that our master, Charles Fort, was an imbecile. This is untrue, but it is understandable. The astronomers have to say that, or give up their astronomy. The same with the physicists and the philosophers. They would all have to resign if there was any truth in the visions of Charles Fort. As one of the founders of the Fortean Society, I can assure you that they will all resign one day. During his lifetime, our master investigated some 100,000 phenomena. These included tiger children, leopard boys, poltergeist girls, red rains from the sky, meteors with writing on them, and mountains that move themselves. All the strange facts of earth and sky, and the misfit data that scientists had always omitted from their textbooks because they couldn't explain them, those were his laboratory. Where the footprints of man or thing that had disappeared into thin air stopped, there is where our master began. Where fires of unknown origin had raged and destroyed nothing, where trees walked and rivers flowed uphill, there our master stood, notebook in hand. In his office, he had 20,000 pigeonholes full of miracles. These he had clipped out of the newspapers and magazines of the world, and most of them he ran down and proved. Before his death, he succeeded in demonstrating that the moon may be made of green cheese for all we know. He exposed the law of gravitation as a hoax. He trampled the hell out of the Darwinian theory, and he made one large comical sieve out of all our dogmas. I don't want to exaggerate the genius of Charles Fort. He was no philosophical comet. He was more of a roller coaster that took everybody for a ride. And for us Forteans, the sciences have never quite recovered from this frolic. For us, the lights in the skies, the strange things cast up by the seas, the things that vanish from Earth without a trace, and the presence of all sorts of goofy dust rains everywhere will always take first place over Euclid, Eddington, and even Einstein. No such tales of lightning-haunted people, of hobgoblin footprints, and interplanetary fandangos were ever taught to us in school. The textbooks of science disdained what they couldn't explain. Our master preferred the inexplicable to science. It's possible that our master was a little mad and given to seeing chimeras where only crackpots existed. It's possible also that there is a touch of Flash Gordon in his vision of sky monsters, cloud demons, and astral werewolves bedeviling the earth. But the loony fringes that hang from his sacerdotal robes are a minor matter. The major matter is that long before the headlines bore them out, our prophet had offered his laws to the world. The folly of man, documented as never before in any books, is to be found spread out in his writings. They are writings that should be read today. They will relax you. They will throw the present troublesome idiocies of the race into soothing perspective. You will see that these political idiocies are mere nothings as compared to the pompous and unremitting imbecility that has been going on among professors with long whiskers and savants with high hats. You will see that man is no nearer the truth of life than are the seashells. He only makes a little more and a little less tuneful of a noise. There are quite a number of us Forteans. We have a letterhead with some moons and planets on it, a president, and an active secretary named Tiffany Thayer. Our roster includes J. David Stern, Booth Tarrington, Aaron Sussman, Burton Rasco, Alexander Wolcott, John Cowper Poise, Theodore Dreiser, and numerous other sane and notable gentry. We lack, however, evangels. In our society at present, there are only two, both of them a little footling. One is Dreiser, who squats in the Golden West and grunts away in behalf of the befuddled communists. As for the other, Wolcott, that fearless champion of the obvious, is lying fallow just now, waiting for some Tweedledum to defend. There is room in the Fortean society for some high and clacking tongues to cut loose in behalf of our master, and plenty of room for members to provide the proper niche in this world for this apostle of the exception, keeper of ghosts, observer of secret rays, avenger of forgotten theories, lost causes, and stray comets, jocular priest of the improbable, and demonstrator of idiocies. I myself didn't fully understand this the first time, and I lecture on Ben Hecht. So it's worth listening to this again. What I'll clarify for you is that he says we lack evangels, because ultimately this is mostly insanity. But what Charles Fort did do, or what Ben Hecht is trying to do with this mocking makeup of the Fortean society, which ended up having a tremendous influence later on, is to knock the official scientists a little bit off their pedestal. Yes, there are people who made great discoveries. They were Forteans themselves in Hecht's comical version of Forteanism. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the terra incognita of knowledge, the skepticism, saying, I don't know, is number one. The bits and pieces that we know are number two. Teaching that to children, and then attempting to chisel it into the law, into the practice of censorship on the internet and in the world, into official fact checkers. That is a much greater danger to ignorance. Ben Hecht on the Forteans.